you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President. If I may ask
Peter,
one
go
other
ahead.
question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President,
that's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr.
Excuse
President,
me. That's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other
Peter,
question,
let's
if
go.
I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have?
I'm not concerned about anything with the Russian investigation because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible. And the way you treat other people are horrible. You shouldn't treat people that way. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter, go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts his butt.
Well, I'm not
like
a big
the rest
fan
of
of
us.
yours either. So.
Good morning. This is Lou Benninger, and you're listening to Live with Lou here on the Patriot, 1410 AM or 104.3 FM. We're up here on Mount Huth, sitting in the smoke. Wiki Man and I, this is live. We're doing live show today, and we'll be here till noon. And if you're listening from some other part of the state or out of the state, we're on fire up here in Butte County, called Paradise. Paradise, the city, has burned down. We got problems again. We got one fire after another. We got spillways breaking down. When you just look around the state of California, one word that just comes to my mind is neglect. Just neglect. Let the forests go. Let the roads go. Let the dam go to hell. Just neglect. And so here we are. So as just citizens of up here that have little power with the government, we're just all trying to take care of one another, aren't we? So today, if you're out there offering resources for campfire refugees, or if you have places to stay, give us a shout at 742-5555. That's 530. And then 742-5555, and we will repeat those to folks that may be staying in hotels or wherever they're staying in their cars, and see if we can't help those with whoever needs what. Everybody's got some different needs out there. Please don't call us if you think you know something. We want to have I run a trauma intervention program, TIP, they call it. And the worst thing you can do is give out information that's bad information. So we want to give out information that's good as gold, as they say. So don't be calling us like, well, I think. If you have to say, I think, please don't bother us. We have other things to do. So I know there's at the New Earth Market, I think they're collecting in Yuba City over on Butte House Road. They're collecting donations. And I know the Yuba Sutter Fairgrounds at Franklin at Wilbur are collecting people and providing resources and food and water and all kinds of stuff. So there's places to park your cars, park your campers. In the parking lot there's toilet facilities. I don't know whether they brought in showers. They probably have over there. That's being run by Yuba Sutter counties. And then I know up in Gridley there is some shelters, but I know some people are looking on Facebook. There's a lot of resources on Facebook, but if you're running around, your phone's dying, you haven't got a computer, you're all screwed up because of this fire, it's a shame. The whole thing is a damn shame. And just everybody's sad about it. So all we can do is pull together and love each other and try to meet the needs of people that are trying to find their way. They're trying to figure out where to from here after you've lost everything. So there's people I know down in the Yuba City, Marysville area staying in hotels, parked everywhere, camped out, and all up and down the valley. So this radio signal here today is probably reaching up into Butte County, Nevada County, Placer County, Sacramento County, a tad, Colusa County, Southern Yuba. So whatever we can do to help, that would be great. I see, I had a guy on my Facebook page said, hey, I got a camper hookup if you can come up here to Loma Rica. So if you want to give some specific addresses and stuff, give me a shout out, or if there's stashes of food or supplies or some of the things I see, people saying, hey, please bring clothes, but bring new clothes. Don't bring old clothes that we have to sort through. Bring stuff that has tags on it so we know sizes and stuff. So some things, a lot of times people just clean out their house at that time to get rid of stuff, and we don't want to get rid of our worst stuff and give it to other people. We want to try to bless them and help them. So so we're looking for resources and places for folks to stay and maybe even, I don't know about the animal thing. I know we have an animal program here to rescue animals. I know the posses of Yuba and Sutter County are swinging into action to store and care for animals. So we will, if anybody has any key numbers, phone numbers to get direction, that would be something to provide us as well. So we're here for 3 hours, so we have time to do some stuff here. Again, please don't give me any bad information or stuff you heard from somebody who told somebody who told somebody who told somebody. Not interested in that. The worst thing you can do is give a traumatized person a bum lead. Big, big, bad deal. So, similar to the Cascades Fire, the After the Fire book that Tip put together many, many years ago, we provide that to all our structure fire victims throughout the year. Seems to be helpful again. I don't know there's anything quite like it, so probably there's no literature that's going out that's really helpful to think through taking inventory of all your products, all the stuff. Try to begin making a list of all the things that you remember were in your house for your insurance company. Just staring at your insurance guy and their gal in the face and saying, my house burned down, give me some money. You're going to have to make a list of everything that burned up. Your lawnmowers, your this, your rototillers, your television, your all the stuff. You're just going to have to start. It's just hard. I know you're not thinking straight. And so we were over at the Hampton Inn yesterday. People were staying over there. We were bringing some food in over there for them, and they were just confused. People are just shocked and traumatized, numb, discombobulated. It's just a horrible time for our this part of the valley. But we can all pull together, and I think I've never noticed so many people just pulling together and going out and loading up tri-tip and going up there and cooking on the side of the road and dishing out food. We were sending pickup truck after trailer out of the Church of Glad Tidings Thursday and Friday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday up into that area. And so I saw online Church of Glad Tidings was asking if anybody, a lot of people say, oh, you shouldn't try to raise money in a difficult time like this. Well, a lot of people are saying, how can I help, right? They don't know how to help. And so I saw somebody said, well, give the money to the Office of Emergency Services. And a lot of people said, to hell with that. I'm tired of giving money to government, right? So Church of Glad Tidings has sent literally tractor trailer rigs, 50-some foot tractor trailer rig. But it costs money to move those products around, so that we're not asking for administration costs, as a lot of people do. We're not fundraising. We're just trying to move a lot of product up into that area so the people that are living up there can just come and get it for free. So if you want to, you can go on the churchofgladtidings.com website, donate through there, or you can just send a check to P.O. Box 1630, Yuba City 95992 if you want to help with trucking, like truckloads. The church out there at Glad Tidings is connected nationally with free stuff, truckloads after truckload after truckload, like we got truckloads of cereal and products, granola bars, water, all kinds of stuff, drinks. some hygiene items, etc. So, but it takes money to move that stuff around. It's not all free. The government's not involved. It's private and private nonprofit. So P.O. Box 1630, Yuba City 95992, or you can drop a check off out there at Highway 99 and Eager Road. Usually Tuesday through Friday, there's offices open. There's people out there every day now. They live out there, but so you just need to find the right person if it's an off day or off hour. But also trauma intervention. If you know, we're right in the middle of our fundraiser, and if you want to give to something where all the money goes to the victims, you can do that through trauma intervention as well. And the best way, where every cent of your dollar goes to that use, is to send a check to P.O. Box 645 Marysville. P.O. Box 645 Marysville. Tip. You just put tip. And we're trying to raise $40,000 just in general. But for instance, it's interesting. People just come and they'll just say, give me some of those fire books, right? And those books are like an 8.5 by 11, like 20 or 30 pages. Well, it costs probably $1 a piece or so. I don't know. We printed 700 to 800 of those, maybe 1,000, I don't know, years ago. But we're happy to hand them out. We never charge for any of our services. And we had a guy call yesterday who has a care home, acute care home, and in Yuba City. And they have a sister home up in Paradise. Said, Lou, the whole thing burnt down up in Paradise. Lost everything. So he said, we're really, he didn't mention whether they lost any patients, but he said, we stumbled across your After the Fire book. And so he said, it's a great book. He said, is it online? I said, we printed it so long ago, we weren't even putting stuff online back then. I think it was prior to my website. So, but I told him, and I'll tell you as well, if you are out there, usually if we have a death or a structure fire or something, the law enforcement calls us, fire calls us, we go to that event. But when you have thousands of buildings that burnt down and you have hundreds maybe that died, I don't know how many have died. They haven't found everybody yet. It's, nobody's calling one person to go to one person. It's just, people are just suffering. So you can go onto websites. I'll give you a couple of websites where there's a lot of resources that are just electronic. You can download them or just read them online about grief after a loss, any type of loss. Lost your home, lost your family. And that is yubasuttertip.org, yubasuttertip.org. And just as soon as you get to the front page, just hit resources and scroll down there and see what looks good for you. yubasuttertip.org. And the second one is whentragedystrikes.org. And that's a website we built years ago, whentragedystrikes.org. That has a lot of resources on it as well about trying to understand why you're feeling so goofed up, and how to help people, how to help each other. Because a lot of times we mean well, but we say stuff that doesn't help people. Like, well, you can always build another house, something stupid like that. Or, you can always rent. Or, people mean well, but they just don't know what to say. So this tells you what not to say, what to say, helpful things. Whentragedystrikes.org. Free. Everything's free. And so if you need the After the Fire book, you can dial 530-673-9300, and we can figure out how to get one to you. There should be some over at the Yuba Sutter Fairgrounds, and then Sutter County Victim Services picked up 50 from me last night, and they were making the rounds at different spots. People were hanging out and get some of those out there. So again, not expecting you to read it right away, but when your kind of blurred vision straightens out and your mind settles down and you're thinking about, I need to get organized, this will help you get your thoughts together and figure out where to from here, right? How to count whatever chickens you got left and just start over somewhere. So you think about what words would help. I was thinking about coming on the radio today. What would I actually say? I'm sorry. Really, what else can you say? It's just ridiculous. If you've looked at any of the videos up there, and if you're angry, I'm angry. I am angry. I've been angry for days. I'm sick of people, political agendas driving unsafe practices, whether it be forestry, ignoring our roads, ignoring our dams. I'm just pissed off, and I'm just sick of it. And it really is bad when I worked up in the Paradise area, and it's gone. It's just like a whole thing's just gone, destroyed. That's unbelievable. And you think of the spillway. I just saw this article in the Appeal Democrat. It says Thursday, November 1st. It says, Oroville Dam spillway is ready. How long is that taking? You remember that? You would think how much ignored maintenance went on to have to work on it. Obviously, the water destroyed a lot because this thing was screwed up, but how much deferred maintenance, ignored maintenance? I mean, it's one thing if you want to let a light bulb go out and just not replace it, but a thing that's holding back millions and millions of acres of water, and you're just going to blow it off and play politics. And they've been up there, one of the major construction firms in the United States of America with thousands of workers, and they're still working at it up there. It's amazing. Isn't that amazing to you? I just think it's fascinating. Now we're going to attend to it, right? And we'll dump. What are we going to end up with, $1 billion sunk in that thing before it's over? Unbelievable. Well, all right, so 742-5555. Now, if you have a hard time listening to this because of your, if there's static or you're out there on the edge of our signal, you can go on KMYCradio.com, KMYCradio.com, and then click on the Listen Live icon, and you can do it that way. You can go to some of your phone apps and look for KMYC. Pull us in that way, or if you don't have time to listen right now, you want to. If we start giving out information later on, you think, oh, they said some information. You can catch it later at YouTube channel One Eye Blind Media, and then just look for the Live with Lou and look for the right date, which it's the 10th today. So there's that. Let's see. I wanted to mention also the votes. They're still counting votes. It just seemed like when I was younger, many years ago, as of Election Day, it was just over. They counted all the votes, and in 24 hours, it seemed like you knew what was going on. But nowadays, maybe it's because everybody's voting by mail, that the votes don't all come in on the right day, right? And so they say if it's postmarked the day of the election, which would be the 6th, then they give it an extra bunch of days to get there, up to a certain amount of time. Then they say, hey, that's just we're not going to wait forever. But they'll wait, and then they have they say they have about 30 days from the day of the election, November 6th, to certify the election. So some of these campaigns, in fact, I didn't get a chance, but maybe we can check on it today, maybe Butte County, and check on if they had an election up there on raising the sales tax 1% in Oroville, right? I don't remember what they called that, but we could probably find and see whether it passed or not. But, for instance, Measure K in Yuba County, the last I saw, I haven't looked lately, but it was like 300 votes. No on K was 300 votes behind. In other words, it was winning. In other words, to raise the tax 1%. And a lot of people were shocked at that. They just thought, how can that be? It just didn't seem like it was going to pass. And so there's still like 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 votes that are not counted over there in Yuba County, according to the county clerk, Terry Hansen. and they're going to work at it. You know, Monday is a holiday for some people. Courts, the government, right? It's a Veterans Day. And so Monday they're not going to work. So Tuesday they'll start working and start counting those ballots again. But they got 8,000 ballots, they said, over there in Yuba County. And I'm sure that's true of every county. They just got a bunch of these vote by mail situations, or they either voted by mail or they dropped them off at the polling places. So they have to hand unpack those, open the envelope, check the envelope, make sure it was signed properly, make sure it's not fraudulent. You know, it's not just like counting, right? Like on a machine. It's not just like counting. They got to open it, check it out, confirm it, check it off. There's a process. So it takes a while to do it, and they're going to work on that. And so some people think that maybe Measure K, you know, I always think, hey, if you get a certain percentage of the vote in, kind of the tendency will stay the same to the end. Even, you know, the percentage will stay the same. The vote number will increase. But some races are really close, really close. Like it gets down to where you're 20, 30, 40 votes, 100 votes difference. I guess that could flip-flop. But Measure K was a countywide competition to raise the sales tax 1% in Yuba County. And so everybody outside the city of Marysville and outside the city of Wheatland got to vote on that. So we'll see how that's going to turn out. Now, you remember we've talked about it on the show here that Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, who helped actually were the originators or the founders of Howard Jarvis. Howard Jarvis and Paul Gann were the originators of Prop 13 back in, I think, 1978. And then they continued on as an organization to be a watchdog on taxes, and then they helped get Prop 218 and Prop 10 passed, which said that if you're going to increase taxes, you had to do it by 2/3 of the legislature, and also 2/3 of the local folks. And then they made a change, and they said, well, if it's a general tax, you can just pass it where the money could be used for anything. A local tax, you can add it on to the sales tax. If you did 50% of the people plus one, that means one half the people plus one could tell the rest of the people what they're going to do with their life. That's a simple majority. But if it's a special tax where they designate the money for a particular project, like a sewer project, or we're going to give all the money to law enforcement, then you have to have 2/3 of the voting population say yes to that, okay? So what Howard Jarvis says on Measure K is that Measure K was violating the way it was written, the way it was promoted, and the way it was funded. It violated many, many laws. In other words, the government is forbidden to use our tax dollars to go out and solicit more money from us. But they spent probably up towards $200,000 on our tax dollars. We'd give our tax dollars to fix the roads, take care of law enforcement, and instead they spent it on a campaign to take more money from us in Yuba County. And so Howard Jarvis said, what you did is wrong. Now, we'll see whether Howard Jarvis now, if it doesn't pass Measure K, that it's a moot point on whether it passed or not, or how much it passed by. The other point that isn't a moot point or insignificant point is the fact that a couple 100,000 of our tax dollars were taken and spent on a hustle, on a PR hustle. And that's against the law, whether it passes or not. So whether or not Howard Jarvis is going to take it on and take Yuba County to court, or whether private attorneys do, we'll see. We're working on that. So all you out there in Yuba County who are angry and wondering about that, you just more details later on that, because we don't know whether it passed or not. But we're going to be checking in with attorneys that specialize in this type of litigation. So we're going to take a break. We're going to be here for 2 hours and a half more till noon. Then sports coming on. We're sitting up here on Mount Huth in the smoke. And we mentioned earlier, this is, you can call us at 530-742-5555 if you have places to stay, places for people to park something where they can hang out for a few days. You know where resources are. If you really know where everything is, not you think, call us and we'll pass that on. Okay, 530-742-5555. That was a clip about Veterans Day. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, November 11th. There's an official holiday on Monday where primarily government offices get it off, and related like public defenders' offices, even though they're not the government. There's no court, so they're closed. But I'd like to just spend a little bit of time in talking about Veterans Day, because I think there's generally, unless you're a veteran or in the military, some of these days come by and they're kind of a blur. You think, oh, yeah, it's Monday. We would know, what was that? Why are we getting off Monday? How come we're off? And I'd like to explain where this comes from, because if you forget your history, basically you don't know what's going on. It's kind of like forgetting when you go for a hike and you can't find your way back home. Veterans Day was originally called Armistice Day, and it's always been related to the end of World War I. Hostilities ended formally at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918. So that's the significance on 11/11, November 11th. So no matter where it exactly lands, they toss in a Monday off, because if you're government, you're special, right? But originally called Armistice Day, or Remembrance Day, depending on where you are in the world. We're not the only ones that celebrate this particular day, because it was a world war, and it was a world war-ending day when the hostilities ended with Germany. So in our country, major veteran organizations asked that Armistice Day be renamed Veterans Day in 1954. Veterans Day should not be confused with another holiday called Memorial Day. It's a public holiday in May. And Veterans Day, which is tomorrow, and then the holidays on Monday, celebrates the service of all U.S. veterans, living or dead. Celebrates their service, while Memorial Day honors those who died. And then there is also Armed Forces Day, which is considered more of a minor U.S. remembrance. It also is occurring in May, and that honors those that are currently serving. So Memorial Day covers those that died. Veterans is an all-encompassing day, those currently serving, those that did serve, and those that are now past. Got it? 3 days, 2 of them in May, 1 of them this week, 11/11, right? 11th hour, 11th day, 11th month, 1918. Sort of a special way of remembering that. So interesting enough, I don't know how, I've never noticed this before, but I stumbled across it, and there are some businesses that are listed, and I'm sure there may be other businesses, so it may be worth asking. And I'm not sure on these chains where there's a franchise or a chain of restaurants or places, whether they all do it or whether it's just certain ones. But like Applebee's, on November 11th, you get a free full-size entree from a special menu with 8 selections for, it says, at participating restaurants. So active duty and other veterans are eligible with proof of service, such as a military ID or a DD-214, membership card from Veterans Organization or something, right? And the restaurant chain's goal is to serve 1 million free meals to veterans. How about that? So just hold the Applebee's thought. You might want to just give them a call or stop in and say, hey, Are you taking part in this? Also, Chipotle, buy one, get one free on November 11th. Applies to burritos, bowls, salads, and taco orders. Active duty, guard, and reserve members, military spouses, and retirees are eligible with a valid ID. Limit one free menu item per military ID. So if your wife and you both run the military, you both ride free. I'm just going to cover the ones that we have locally here in the Yuba Sutter area. But maybe some of the others is Cracker Barrel, Old Country Store. Might have one in the adjoining county. Get a choice of free slice of double chocolate fudge, Coca-Cola, or crafted, a whole bunch of stuff, specialty stuff. Denny's, get a free Build Your Own Grand Slam from 5 a.m. to noon on November 12th. That's on Monday. And so the first part of the day, build your own. Get yourself, and got to have an ID. Covers all of them. Guard, reserve, active, retiree, other veterans. Dunkin' Donuts over in Yuba City, maybe they're participating. Get one free donut at participating restaurants. Sounds good to me. Active duty and other veterans are eligible. Little Caesars, get a free hot and ready lunch combo, which includes 4 slices of pizza, 20-ounce drink, It happens tomorrow, 11 to 2. Got to have an ID or vet. And also, that's it. That's it for the ones I see local. But if you're going out to eat, you might ask if there's some benefit from one of these outfits on Veterans Day tomorrow. Okay? Denny's was on Monday. You remember that? Denny's on Monday. So you got a Denny's in Marysville, and there's probably Denny's in surrounding areas as well. Okay. So, again, 530-742-5555 if you're trying to get directions on resources, to drop off resources, or you want to offer directions, dropping off resources or getting resources, places to stay, right? Man, I think, I put up some people. I always like to use the Hampton Inn when we have tip trainers, trauma intervention trainers coming to town. Great, nice place. It's expensive, though. I'm just thinking of these families that lost everything, and they're moving into these hotels. Some of them pretty expensive. I don't know whether the average person, of course, maybe their homeowner's insurance, that they have fire insurance that will cover that. So think about that. Hey, I want to give a thank you to the Yuba Sutter Constitutional Republicans. They conducted a stellar effort during the recent election cycle to help inform people, provide resources to people, have a place for people to come, talk, meet, have some gigs where people could come and support them, get their literature out, get their message out. And they were meeting over at 441 Bridge Street next to the Cookie Tree. By the way, the Cookie Tree, let me just give a shout out to the Cookie Tree. They gave us, glad tidings, hundreds of dozens of cookies. It seemed like hundreds of dozens. I think so. I delivered, it must have been 8 dozen into the Yuba County Jail for the officers there. We took a bunch over to Juvenile Hall. We took to the hospital, to the ER. The Cookie Tree is it's a blessing machine, that Cookie Tree over there at Bridge and Shasta. You want some amazing cookies. That place has been cranking out cookies. Probably everyone in the region has ate a cookie from the Cookie Tree by now. So thank you so much to the Cookie Tree and providing wonderful cookies. The jail, because I brought them in and all nicely wrapped, but they were in a cardboard box. When I brought them in, they thought I cooked them. Well, obviously they were missing the mark. I told them I didn't even cook. So they said, man, those cookies were so good. I said, well, that was the whole idea, is bring in something really good to eat. So way to go, Cookie Tree. So while I got off on that, every time I think of that part of town, I think of the Cookie Tree, because they've been so good to trauma intervention over the year for like 20-some years. they have provided a couple dozen cookies a week so we can give them out to emergency response agencies like law enforcement, fire, Bi-County ambulance. Oh, by the way, we had Bi-County ambulance. Ron Welsh came and spoke to the trauma intervention volunteers this week, training us right in the middle of fire, right in the middle of training medics. They were training medics for mass casualty incidents over at the Hampton Inn, the hotel in Yuba City. They got a big conference room over there, I guess. And then at the same time, they had at least five ambulance units they sent up into the campfire disaster in Paradise. And then we've been partners with Bi-County for approaching 25 years serving Yuba Sutter area together. We've helped, we like to think we helped them. And they contributed. We have this fundraiser going on, as I mentioned earlier, to raise money to run our program. We are not government funded, and so they came and spoke for us right in the middle of all these people going up there into that fire zone, plus doing a mass casualty shooter training, how to respond in on those. They're changing the protocols on it. Then they came over and trained us that night and gave us $2,500. So we just want to say a big thank you to Bi-County Ambulance, who has been a stellar supporter of us, and we just appreciate them so much. So the Yuba Sutter Constitutional Republicans have been meeting, and I think are continuing to meet until further notice on the fourth Thursday of the month. Now, where they're meeting, I'm not quite sure whether they're going to continue to meet at 441 Bridge Street for a bit, because I'm sure they have they got to clean up over there, and they were either rented or loaned that 441 Bridge Street location. So they were meeting up to that point out at the Church of Glad Tidings, Highway 99 in Eager Road. But I'm going to give you a phone number for Tammy Reichard, who's the chapter treasurer, and her number is 701-2845, 530 area code 701-2845. If you wonder which way to the beach for the next meeting. But they have, we want to thank them for many, many months now, starting out as the Tea Party, the Sutter Buttes Tea Party Patriots, and then transferring into this Constitutional Republicans. They've been supporting us here at the radio station, and we appreciate that, and we just want to keep you briefed on where they're going to be residing and how often in the future. So tomorrow, which they normally would have a Yuba Sutter political spotlight from 1 to 3 on Sunday, they are not going to do that since the election is passed, right? So that's that. The other thing is I want to mention that Elite Universal Security, Monty Hecker, who was really very active in the local elections here and trying to get the word out about Measure 6, Proposition 6, which passed really heartily in the North State, in the state of Jefferson, but like I've mentioned, and the reason for the state of Jefferson idea is because it doesn't matter what we want up here, we have to do what L.A. and San Francisco wants us to do. So Monty, at his location at 5548 Federer Boulevard, he was distributing the signs for Measure 6, as well as over at Van's Bicycle Shop. They had a bunch of 6 signs. But let me just tell you, the counties up here in the North State that said, we want to repeal the gas tax, that's Measure 6. Let me just read them to you. They're all in what we call the state of Jefferson: Del Norte, Siskiyou, Modoc, Lassen, Shasta, Trinity, Tehama, Glenn, Colusa, Yuba, Sutter, Sierra, Nevada, Placer, El Dorado, Amador, Calaveras, and San Joaquin counties all voted overwhelmingly that they wanted to repeal the gas tax that was unfairly brought on them by the Democrats in the legislature. But even though they overwhelmingly didn't want that tax anymore, they have to have that tax. It's like the colonies didn't want certain taxes, and England said, you're going to have them anyway, right? across the ocean. Somebody over there was saying, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. A T-tax, a stamp tax, it's this, that, and the other thing. So even though all these counties voted, the people voted overwhelmingly to say, we want to repeal the gas tax. Yes on 6. It was rejected by the big population centers and the metropolitan areas. Just another reminder that the state of Jefferson is needed. So I'm going to give you, let me give you an address now, and then I'll go back to talk about Monty's operation. If you want to see a cool deal where you can look at maps on the election, if I can find it here, and you can see how the different geographic areas of the state voted on different issues, you can go to vote.sos.ca.gov/maps. And you can go there and you can see why we're so screwed up in rural Northern California, where we don't have millions of people living on top of each other. So we don't have a balanced voting system. Like, we don't have senators for every county. Everything is done by population base. So you have a certain number of senators per population, a certain number of assembly members per population. So that leaves the low population counties out of the loop at every turn. So you can see the impact of that in voting at vote.sos.ca.gov/maps. That's a Secretary of State election site. And then you just scroll down and pick whatever issue, whether it's Senate race, Assembly race, propositions, and pick the proposition. You can see how it breaks out. It's fascinating to see it in living color. So anyway, I want to give a shout out to Monty Hecker, who has been a supporter. He's been a supporter of this radio show for 1 year. And we're here because of guys like Monty and guys like Dave Greenitz. I was just talking to the friend of mine who keeps track of the money through Glad Tidings, and he says, oh, yeah, man, Greenitz has been supporting you. Dave Greenitz Construction has been supporting you for years, and so Greenitz is a big helper. Kept us on the air out here. Monty's kept us on the air, so he runs Elite Universal Security. If you're looking for a job, man, I'm telling you, if you got to be hiding to avoid a job right now. You got to be hiding out like up in a cave because people are looking for you. We want you not to go in the military. We want you to go to work. We need workers. In fact, we just took a gal from the Yuba County Jail, a methamphetamine addict. The court says take her out there to Glad Tidings, see if we can get her straightened out. And her boyfriend came to church. We got him a job. He was unemployed. Got him a job over with Ted Holmes, Liftoff. Got him a good job. And he's a healthy-looking guy, a lot healthier than me. He's out there working. So anyway, Elite Universal Security, they're protecting the communities in Yuba and Sutter counties, Butte County, Redding area, and they're looking for good, reliable men and women to work for them. And you can call them at 749-0280. 749-0280, or you can go on to api-academy.com and look at all the courses they have. They'll even teach you how to do the job. You think, I don't know anything about that. Well, it's all right. We all started out not knowing anything about that, and then you'll learn. So they'll teach you, api-academy.com or eliteuniversalsecurity.com, and check it out. And this weekend, they're doing classes out there. I don't know whether you could jump on the second half tomorrow's class, but they're doing a concealed weapons permit in-class training, and then they're doing the range tomorrow. On November 17th, they're trying to get some people to do a taser class and pepper spray class. So they want at least 3 students. So if you ever thought you wanted to spray somebody or tase somebody, they'll teach you how to do it and the whole thing. So you can go out there, but call them up. Or go online and check it out and get it on. You know, one of the blessings of Yuba Sutter area is we have Beale Air Force Base right next to us, and it's been here since the 50s, after the closing down of the Korean War. They changed it over to an Air Force base, but it's very common to be in a restaurant and run into, or getting a cup of coffee at one of the coffee outlets, or getting a burger or whatever, and you run into Air Force folks, and you either know them by the way their hair is cut, the guys, or they have their uniform on, their fatigues on, whatever. So at minimum, or I see them at the post office sometimes where I get my mail, they're shipping stuff off because they're not from here, so they're shipping packages, picking up packages. And so at minimum, we should stop them and thank them and share your appreciation with them for their service. But, sometimes it'd be nice if you just called the waitress over and picked up their tab for them without them having to go talk to them. Just say, hey, I got that table over there. I'll put that on my tab. Right? And do them a solid. And that would help them. They don't make a lot of money. And that would honor them and show them, like, maybe they're lonely or they're having a hard time. They're away from their family because they get transferred all over the world. And they want to start out, have a good day, and you could bless them. Have a good day. Well, I want to just mention, I have a map of the state of Jefferson in front of me here. Amador, these are different counties that have said, we would be interested in separating from the state of California. Oh, we got a switch? Okay. I'll tell you right after we come back. We're going to two more hours after this, so hang around. You're listening to Live with Lou. We're here on our second hour, and we're going till noon. So our number is 530-742-5555. So if you have some resources, or you have places for people to pull in a camper or stay somewhere, or maybe you have some people that are needy. I just got a text from a friend of mine who says, pretty sobering, actually. Lou, we need tip people here. There's people that just lost their kids and their family. That sucks right there. Makes me mad just to think about it. The nice thing is we got tip people. We got people that can respond 24 hours a day, and there they go. They're going to go over there. I gave them a number. So you can call us and leave a message with Santos. He'll answer the phone, and we'll put out information if you have a way to help people. Well, people, when you think about what's going on in the state of California, we are stuck up here in Northern California because we have a government, a political system. It's not like the United States federal system where you have 2 senators for every state, so they balance out the House of Representatives, which is elected according to how many people. You get a certain number of, you get a representative for every certain number of people. But the balance to that is, so the big population states wouldn't control the low population states. They gave 2 senators to every state, no matter how many people they had. So if there was 1 person in a state, you get 2 senators. So that balanced out the political power brokering. But in the state of California, instead of having a representative for every county in the Senate, and then having the Assembly operate like the House of Representatives according to population, both of them, senators and Assembly people, are elected according to population. That means Amador, Butte, Calaveras, Colusa, El Dorado, Glen, Lake, Lassen, Mendocino, Modoc, Nevada, Placer, Plumas, Shasta, Sierra Siskiyou, Sutter, Tehama, Trinity, Tuolumne, and Yuba. We don't get enough representation up here. And so that means if they want whatever they want in the big population areas of Central and Southern California, L.A., San Diego, San Francisco. It doesn't matter whether we agree or not, or whether we fit into that or not, we're stuck with it. It's a bad system. It's inequitable. It's sinful. It's a violation of the Constitution. And so the people that are running this, trying to get the state of Jefferson going, are working on they're working a lawsuit through the courts right now, trying to get it to the Supreme Court of the United States to say that the system of voting and government in California is violation of the Constitution, and it should be changed, or the counties that don't like it should be allowed to separate off and create a new state. Not leave the union, just create a separate state called 51. So if you're interested and you think, oh, I'm getting tired of voting for things and we all want it up here in the North State, and then the folks in the rest of the state, they just say, no, you can't have that because we don't want it. So if you want to get involved in this, there's a website, SOJ51.org. SOJ, that's State of Jefferson, SOJ51.org. And you can donate some money. You know, a lot of people just want things to change, but they don't want to put any effort or any money into it. That's a bad idea right there. No skin in the game, as Obama would say. So I'd suggest to you, if you want to stick around California, now the easiest thing for some of you to do is just to leave. Like for instance, for the first time in my life, I know people now that are moving out of California, not because they had a job change and they had to move. They wanted to stay, but they had to move. People are actually staying because they want to get out of California. And there's an article, in fact, it was in the paper here a few days ago, and it said California lost more residents than it got last year. About 130,000 more residents left California for other states last year than came here from those states, as high costs left many residents without a college degree looking for an exit, according to the Bee. So what they're saying is, without getting into a bunch of boring numbers to you, a lot of people are coming here. Some people are coming here with college certificates, degrees, etc., probably to work in some of the tech industry. But a lot of people that are, construction workers, all kinds of blue-collar type jobs, they may make a decent wage or salary, but they don't have like a master's degree, or they're not teaching at college. So that group, they're paying the taxes, right? Middle class, they're leaving. That's the group really that's leaving. And it says California has seen more than 15 consecutive years of net resident losses to other states. The trend was the sharpest. Well, I won't get into that. It says since 2001, about 410,000 more people have left California and moved to Texas than arrived from Texas to California. That's roughly equivalent to the population of Oakland, California. So that's just what's happening. People are, and for the first time ever, I know a lot of these people. In fact, some of them are listening from over there in Idaho right now, I think. It says at the bottom of this article, on the other hand, adults, this is the group that's leaving. On the other hand, adults without a college degree left California in droves, it said. Educational attainment, well, I won't get into that. So anyway, the people are leaving. And I used to just think, I wonder who those people are, because I don't know them. But now I do. I know some of them. In fact, it's happening. In fact, on Facebook, I see people, they say, we're leaving next year, or we bought a house down there in Tennessee, or we're getting ready to leave, or we're planning on leaving, or we want to leave. It's just interesting to see all the talk on the social media about people that fit into the category I'm talking about. Like maybe they're real estate agents, right? Maybe they don't have a college degree, but they're sharp, they're hustlers, they're selling homes. But they think, this is crazy. It just costs too much to live here. The regulations, the baloney, the craziness, the telling my kid he might be a transsexual. And, sharing bathrooms. It's crazy. It's just crazy. The place is nuts, right? People are walking in, stealing. In fact, I just heard that there's a discussion of Walmart shutting down. Did you hear that in Linda? They're losing so much money from theft. People are just walking in, carrying out stuff. That they, even though that's a huge volume store in the Walmart chain, if you lose a lot from theft, it takes your profit, right? So you just think, hey, why sell a lot of products so your sales are up, but if your thefts are up, that's all your profit. And wouldn't it be interesting if they just shut that Walmart down? Maybe they could just use the building and move all the homeless in there and just warehouse them, right? Maybe that would be a good thing for Yuba County and just get welfare money from the government. Maybe that would be a good thing. Isn't that a shame? And it's just because of what the legislature decides in Sacramento has a big impact. So when they changed, actually, you got in on that vote of reducing the penalties to where people can steal up to $950 a day and it'd be a misdemeanor, not a felony. Therefore, they don't even go to jail. And so people are just hauling out stuff. In fact, my friend of mine was by the house the other day, and he was taking care of somebody, and he said he had a brand new sweatshirt on, right? A fancy sweatshirt. And he said, "Did you steal that from Walmart?" He said, "Yeah, I did." He said, what are you thinking? People justify it thinking, well, that's big capitalism. They deserve to be stolen from. Because people are successful, they deserve. I mean, there's some screwy thinking out there right now. Really screwy thinking. And the guy admitted he stole it from Walmart. So he said, "Where'd you get that sweatshirt?" He said, "I stole it from Walmart." Unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. I can't even get my head around it. It just drives me totally nuts. If I was working at Walmart in management or anywhere over there, it would just drive me crazy. People getting away with just hauling stuff out. The same way my friend who's a mechanic told me about Harbor Freight over in Yuba City. He says people just go out the side door and haul out equipment. And they don't even try to catch them. They don't even try to fuss with them. It's craziness. And it makes me sad because I wasn't raised that way and I don't like it. I just don't like it. So, one thing I was wondering the other day is all these celebrities threatening. They said, if this midterm doesn't go the way I want, I'm moving to Canada. The interesting thing, they want an open border with Mexico. Why don't they ever want to go to Mexico? You ever wondered that? If Trump wins, I'm moving to Paris. I'm moving to Canada. They never say, because they love the Mexicans so much, they never say, they love everybody coming across that southern border, the MS-13. Oh, I can't believe Trump said they were animals. Why don't you move? Why don't you say, if Trump stays and doesn't get impeached, I'm moving to Tijuana. They never say that. Never say that. Isn't that interesting? Are they racist? Are these Hollywood people racist? They don't like Mexicans except if they do their lawns? I don't know. The other thing is I want to this is something else I saw. Take the open door challenge. So if you're into open borders, I'm going to recommend that you remove your front door. Or you could close it, but just make it so it won't lock and anybody could just come in whenever they want, right? They could come in, make a tuna sandwich or cook up a taco. Or you just leave a note at the front door, said, here's this clean sheets over there and a towel, bathrooms on the left, and open door challenge, and leave some money on the front counter so they can go if they need anything. They can run down, just take some money and cover their diapers and food and whatever. And, of course, if they're pregnant, then you can run them to the hospital, show your support for open borders. So if you're not willing to unlock your door and just let anybody through without any vetting, you don't want to vet people, then that's an open borders mindset, and that's something you could think about. The other thing I thought was cool is I saw this. Just bought my first live Christmas tree. It's Christmas time. Did you know it's almost Christmas time? The guy told me if I give it a lot of light and water, he would come back in February and haul it away for me. He was such a nice guy, and actually it's a marijuana plant. So he said, buy this tree, water it, give it a lot of light. I'll come and I'll actually haul it to the dump for you. Oh, did you see that they found a bunch of cocaine out at the Recology dump? Oh, yeah, it was like $20,000 or $30,000 worth of cocaine, all bundled up. Somebody threw it in the garbage. Unbelievable. It's a crazy life out there. And they said when they saw it out the dump, I don't know who found it. They said it looked like something out of the movies, the way it was all bundled up, but it was a professionally packaged couple kilos of cocaine right here in Yuba Duba. Well, the title of this is He Fought in World War II, He Died in 214, and He Just Registered to Vote in Virginia. Did you hear this? The FBI and the local police are investigating how 19 dead Virginians were recently re-registered to vote in this critical swing state. One case came to light as the relatives of the deceased man received a note congratulating him for registering. Rockingham County Commonwealth's attorney Marcia Garst said Thursday. His family members are very distraught, said Garst, who confirmed the existence of the FBI and police investigation. All 19 were initially registered as voters in the Harrisburg city. And although a clerk double-checking the entries later raised questions about one, she recognized the name of Richard Allen Claybrook Sr., who died in 2014 at 87 years old, because his son is a well-known local judge. She happened to recall that the judge's father had died, and here he was registering to vote. And the guy that was registering to vote, although dead, had been a retired Fairfax County Elementary School principal and fought in World War II, and his son, retired Harrison General District Court Judge Richard Allen Claybrook Jr. So our family says very upset. Can't believe it. Our dad's voting and he's dead. And he was just so devoted to public service, he's still trying to do public service. God bless him. All the forms had been submitted by a private group that was working to register voters on the campus of James Madison University. The group was not identified and no charges have been filed. And finally, this I thought was fascinating. He says, I can see somebody doing this. He did it. I took down my rebel flag, which he says you can't buy on eBay anymore. And he said, I peeled the NRA sticker off my front window. I disconnected my home alarm system and quit the candy-ass neighborhood watch. So I went down and bought 2 Syrian flags and put one on each corner of my front yard. Then I purchased the black flag of ISIS, which you can get on eBay, and ran it up the flagpole. Now, the local police, sheriff, FBI, CIA, NSA, Homeland Security, Secret Service, and other agencies are all watching my house 24/7. I've never felt safer. And I'm saving $69.95 a month that ADT used to charge me. He said he cut off all the security, eliminated anything patriotic, and he said he did everything terrorists, and he said now he's got the support of everybody. Plus, I bought burqas for me to wear when I shop or travel. Everyone moves out of the way, and security can't pat me down. If they say I'm a male wearing a burqa, I just say I'm feeling like a lady today. Hot damn, safe at last. You know, sometimes we just need to think outside the box, right? Think outside the box. And back to the election, I want to talk a little bit about the elections. Over in Nevada, there's a lot of liberals and there's some conservatives over there, and there's a section where the Moonlight Bunny Ranch, it's a whorehouse. It operates, and a guy named Dennis Hoff is kind of an infamous guy that has run that for many, many years. Out in rural, like certain counties in Nevada, they don't like you to, like inside Reno, inside Las Vegas, you can't operate these. Is that what you call them, a whorehouse? I guess, yeah. House of prostitution. Anyway, Dennis Hoff was on the ballot. He had lost the previous congressional race to represent this district in Washington, D.C. He was running as a Libertarian, but he switched this time and ran as a conservative, but he dropped dead a few weeks before the election. But the conservatives in the area said, hey, wait a minute, continue to vote for him, because if we elect him, then we get to appoint whoever replaces him. So they elected the Moonlight Bunny Ranch owner, Dennis Hoff, though he passed. And I guess he had the support of Donald Trump and Roger Stone, who used to work for Trump. And he had been partying for 3 or 4 days, and he was 72. They were celebrating his birthday. That was the same house of prostitution that NBA Los Angeles Laker Lamar Odom was found unconscious in. They rescued old Lamar. Somehow he got all discombobulated over there, went over there to have a little fun, got himself in trouble over there. So I didn't know this. So the way this works, the 3 counties or districts that this guy represents, the supervisors, they call them something else over there, not supervisors. They call them something else, but the political representatives for those 3 counties, they get together and they pick a potential replacement for Mr. Hoff, and then they vote on it to try to pick who's going to take his spot. So that's in Nevada's 36th Assembly District, and it's had a lot of conservative folks running over there for years. The election is just amazing. So let's see. So we'll see whether I mentioned Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, and the group that was yes on 6. I'm wondering if they're going to file an action against Xavier Becerra, who's the Attorney General of the state of California. The title of Proposition 6 should have been to repeal the SB1 gas tax and DMV fee increases. That would have been the honest way to say it. Here's what they ended up saying, if you remember or if you noticed in your sample ballot. The title was, will remove road funds and transportation funds. Well, most people in California are so sick and tired of our transportation system and roads that they definitely wouldn't want that if they hadn't paid attention to the rest of the story. Some of my friends who posted on Facebook were just furious that people would vote to have another grand taken out of their check for another 9 years after 1 year's already passed. So maybe there will be a court case regarding Prop 6 as well. I think there'll be one for Measure K in Yuba County. In fact, I even had I ran into a deputy at the training zone the other night, and he used to live in downtown Marysville. Now he moved over to Sutter County, but he works in Yuba County. And he said, I can't even believe that thing passed. He said, it's illegal, you know. I thought, how did you know that? He says, they can't. He said, we need more deputies, but he said the way they promoted it was illegal. And he said it should have been taken a 2/3 vote. I didn't even know this guy knew this kind of information. Very few people do. He said, oh yeah. He said, I don't think it was legal. But he said, I live in Sutter County now. So he isn't going to be affected by it, right? I wonder how many deputies actually even live, or employees of Yuba County Sheriff's Department even live in the county to be saddled with that 1% sales tax increase on their cars for the next 10 years, if that sticks. So it's just fascinating. Some of the supervisors for Yuba County have made comments like, well, I'm not for it, but I wanted to let the people decide. Now, that's a crock of crap right there. I wanted to let the people decide, right? They voted to put it on the ballot. They didn't have to vote to put it on the ballot. If the people wanted to sign a referendum to put something on the ballot, they could do that. But here's the other thing that the supervisors for Yuba County did besides put it on the ballot. Their representative, who they employ by the name of Robert Bendorf, spent $200,000 of our tax dollars. Now, that would be the responsibility of the 5 supervisors of Yuba County that just, you think, how are you spending our money, dude? Oh, well, I was just trying to convince you to give us some more money and deceive you, convince you against your will, against your best intentions. So when you hear these supervisors say, and I heard one wife of one of the supervisors said, my husband said he's going to demand that every nickel of that money go to public safety. He's only 1 vote out of 5, as someone told me last night. They reminded me, said, that's only 1 vote out of 5. And the fact is, if you look at the Territorial Dispatch this week at territorialdispatch.biz, you'll see an article I wrote that describes how Marysville spent the first $1.4 million of their sales tax increase, and $470,000 of it went into the general fund to just like fill in the cracks. There you have your public safety help. So we're going to take a break. Be back. We're halfway through the show. Listening to Live with Lou, and we're sitting here in smoky Northern California on top of Mount Hood, broadcasting across portions of 4 or 5 counties and then way over into other areas if you're tapped in on different apps and on the internet. So glad you're with us, and we're into our second half of the show, and we're going to end up at noon with some sports guys taking over. I wanted to play a clip off C-SPAN of Nancy Pelosi that describes, you may have watched, we had 2 years of the media every minute, 24 hours a day. It doesn't matter what Trump does, they smear him. And then we had, I don't know how Gorsuch even made it through, but Kavanaugh, they just decided we're not going to have that guy, and they lied and smeared and paid people to come and lie and smeared him. And I want to actually, I don't know what got into Nancy Pelosi, but I don't know whether she took one of those pills where you confess your sins, but she described the tactic of what they do in politics nowadays to destroy someone who's telling the truth, but they want to still make them sound like an idiot. Here we go.
Self-fulfilling prophecy. You demonize, and then we call it the wrap-up smear. If you want to talk politics, you call it the wrap-up smear. You smear somebody with falsehoods and all the rest, and then you merchandise it. And then you write it, and they'll say, see, it's reported in the press that this, and this. So they have that validation that the press reported the smear, and then it's called the wrap-up smear. Now I'm going to merchandise the press's report on the smear that we made. And it's a tactic, and it's self-evident.
So did you catch that? What she says is you start out with something that's a lie, and you throw it out there, and then the press picks up on it, and they write stories about it, and you say, see, it's written in the press, so it must be true. This is exactly what they did with Trump. They demonized him. It was all fake about the Russia collusion. This is what they did with Kavanaugh. It was all fake about these women coming and saying that he did these things. The last one was even ludicrous, that Swetnick one. This is the situation we're dealing with. This is how these people work. They worked with the press to make it seem like what they were saying was legitimate. They tell the lies. The press reports the lies as if they were truth. Truthification. They are trying to make fiction into truth. And that's what they do.
All right, so I hope you caught that. That's a tactic now that's being used in politics, and we're seeing it certainly at the state and federal level, where they smear somebody, and then they get it in the media, and then the politicians then quote the media as if the media has verified this, and it gave it legs, and et cetera, et cetera. So on the November 8th Appeal Democrat, it said Sutter County will not reinstate investigator. Former coworkers allege Parker was toxic to morale. So what happened is on November 6th, the election day, the Board of Supervisors of Sutter County needed to address the administrative law judge in Sacramento, who said, after looking at the evidence and having District Attorney Amanda Hopper and others from the county of Sutter testify about their firing, the way Jason Parker, the head investigator for the DA's office, was fired. After listening to all the testimony and all the evidence presented, he decided, or she decided, I never have figured out whether it's a he or she, he decided that at most, Jason Parker, at the worst, Jason Parker should be demoted down to chief investigator. I thought that's what his job was in the first place. But anyway, he said the guy should never be fired for such minor issues. So the question would be then, when they came back to the Board of Supervisors, because the Board of Supervisors have some options. They don't have to follow the administrative law judge's ruling. They can do a number of things. And so they determined, and I don't even know whether they did this legally or not. They went into closed session after some testimony, and they decided to uphold the termination of Jason Parker. The interesting thing about the day was, I wasn't there, but I've talked to a number of people that were, and was that there were a large contingency, maybe nearly the entire district attorney's office, that shut down. In other words, county employees on their paid time came across the street, and now maybe they took leave time, right? But still, they shut the office down, came across the street to all testify of what a horrible person Jason Parker was. The fascinating thing is that he hasn't been there for over a year, and those people never came to him before to tell him what a terrible person he was. In other words, you know how you can gossip and you can talk trash in the workplace, in the private sector, whatever. But in government, if you have an ought against your fellow employee, you have a complaint, or you feel there's an issue, there are certain methods and protocols and rules that you have to follow to keep yourself out of problems and to carry that out. Otherwise, the person has a right to file an action back at you. So one of the complaints was of Jason Parker was that the way he was fired, that it didn't follow the protocol. Now, each county, I'm told, in the state of California can come up with their own human resources rules on how people are disciplined, how people are corrected, how people are held accountable. Like when the race to replace Carl Adams after his resignation, when that happened, both Amanda Hopper and her competitor, Jennifer Dupre, told me they can't just go in and change the office personnel, because everybody has a right to work there, and you have, as long as they're following the rules, they can still work there. So, but they can hold their feet to the fire if they aren't doing their job or they're a problem, according to the handbook of human resources protocol, employee protocol. So what we have here now, we have a guy that I don't know if you remember, if you're local here to Yuba Sutter area, you maybe followed this, that Amanda Hopper went and told the Appeal Democrat that Dave Williams and Jason Parker were both liars. Well, that's an amazing statement, because you're not supposed to be able to do that. That's an employee issue. And if she has a concern there, she should have taken that through proper discourse, proper channels to resolve something of that egregious. But instead, she just blew it out into the public, which you're not supposed to be able to do that because it affects their future employment and their reputation, right? And so the Appeal Democrat eagerly printed that. Now, the Appeal Democrat has been complicit with the DA's office because Jake Abbott wrote an article suggesting that the cousin of Amanda Hopper was solicited by Parker and Chris Carlos, who was running against Hopper, was solicited to bring lies against her that she molested him. But they never did that. And Hopper actually had an email that proved that, but he lies about it now. And other people have emails that show that the emails went to the Appeal Democrat and the information was in their hand, that Chris Carlos, who ran against Amanda Hopper, he nor Parker had anything to do with some guy coming out of the blue during the election accusing his cousin of molesting him when they were kids. But the appeal, they don't want to go there now. And they want to, it's a big hush-hush over there. So a number of people, maybe more than a dozen, I don't know the exact number, I've heard 17, but I don't know for sure. Really doesn't make any difference how many, it's what they said that's kind of fascinating. I think it's amazing. Now, one of them, Cameron King's, they were all given reasons why they shouldn't rehire. The supervisor said, don't reinstate Jason Parker. Now, they could have reinstated him and put him over in the sheriff's department, right? Because he's a law enforcement official. Or they could have reinstated him and give him a similar job, like the judge said, in the DA's department. But that could have been too gnarly for Miss Hopper. So Cameron King says, he's a prosecutor, he says that the former chief investigator, Jason Parker's credibility would be threatened, the prosecutor's chances of winning cases. Well, Cameron King does not have a stellar reputation for aggressively pursuing cases in law enforcement's mind. I don't know whether all of a sudden he's got a burden of concerned about prosecuting cases. In fact, the one case where the deputy pulled a gun on his wife and beat her up, he actually ditched the file, and they never prosecuted on the case. And I thought in the state of California, the DA had a right to prosecute cases even when the spouse declined to go forward. But on that case, which 3 or 4 Sutter County deputies wrote an amazing report that I read, where the guy pulled gun and pointed it to his own head, a deputy for Sutter County. The guy's still employed. And beat his wife up. And they had photographs of the damage to his wife. And he was never prosecuted, but from what I was told, Cameron King was the one who ditched the file. And all of a sudden, he's all fired up about chances of winning prosecution. Then there's a guy named Mark Koo, K-O-O, said Parker is toxic to office morale. And Monica Dewey, D-U-W-E, said he is dodging subpoenas on cases he helped investigate. Now, this is the fascinating thing. Help me think this through. His boss, Amanda Hopper, Parker's boss, says he's a liar, so that put into question all these cases. We can't prosecute him because Parker was a liar. So, first of all, I don't think he was dodging any subpoenas. Why would they be subpoenaing a liar? If he isn't a credible testifier, why would you be relying on his testimony if the district attorney, his boss, has already said he's not reputable? But Monica says somehow she knows that he's dodging subpoenas. But I think if they talk to David Whitaker, who's another guy over there in the office, he told Parker there were no subpoenas. The other thing is, Well, let me just go on here. He was fired in January 26th after being placed on administrative leave in 2017. So he's on leave. He's away from there in summer of 2017, and now we're almost to 2019. And these people all have issues now, but he hasn't been there for over a year. But he said, I talked to Parker the other day after reading this. I said, who are these people? He said, Lou, they never had any issues while I was there. And he said, I've been gone all this time. And he says, now, and again, I don't work for government, but I understand from talking to people, including District Attorney Hopper before she was elected, and Jennifer Dupre, who works for Butte County, that there are handbooks, human resource handbooks, that describe if you have an issue, how to deal with it, right? So you don't assassinate somebody's character in the media and it not be accurate, right? So it says here in this article by Rachel Rosenbaum, last month the Sacramento administrative judge recommended the county overturn his termination and instead demote him as well as pay him for time missed. The proposed decision stemmed from a non-binding arbitration on June 15th, etc. Okay? So the supervisors just said, no, we're canning him. Forget about it. He doesn't get jack for all this time, year and a half now. Now, here's some other statements I think are interesting. Co-workers told the board that Parker made derogatory statements, exercised poor judgment, and harmed their work environment. Harlan Jones, a legal secretary in the office, said Parker was the common denominator for office turmoil. Chief Investigator John Duffy said reinstating Parker would send a negative message to the community and that law enforcement officers should be held to higher standards. Adam McBride, a prosecutor, he went after old Parker and made crude jokes. And Diego Heimlich said he used to be a friend of his. Now he's no friend anymore. The interesting thing to me, is this legal that they can just get up, leave their job, walk over to the Board of Supervisors? It isn't even a hearing where Parker is asked to come and testify. They just come and slander him in the paper. He didn't even get a chance to respond to this, whether I like the guy or not. People went on Facebook, oh, Lou Benninger, he's a friend of this guy's. Honestly, yeah, I've known him for a jillion years. And I did also Dr. Cassidy. But whether I know somebody or not, if I think they're getting a raw deal, I don't mind talking about it. No big deal to me. I'm not getting any money out of the deal. I'm not getting any benefits out of the deal. I just think, can you do that over there? All you guys that are working in government, can you do what these people are doing? You just go in. Clint Curry, he's the guy that we're going to end up with as a new DA. It's a scary thought this dude's coming over here. He's so flippant. He's like fickle, right? He's like on his period or something. One day he's one way, one day he's another. Then he changes his mind. You can't tell what he's going to say. And now we got him as a DA over here. It's like as soon as he decided to run for DA, he switched to AC/DC or something. Then Amanda Hopper asked the board to read the record regarding the witness testimony. If she said she kind of let's see. She kind of threw in the Me Too. You know the Me Too movement? If I were a man, I would not have to put up with Parker's flagrant disregard for my authority and for my gender. If you don't know, Amanda Hopper's a female. I am District Attorney of Sutter County, goddammit. And you need to pay attention to me because I'm a female and a district attorney. And his superior. I'm superior to him. So anyway, the interesting thing to me is that this is all about words. Do you know what I'm saying? He arrested a guy that he had a warrant. Think about this now. You remember all these things you see on Facebook? A cop tackled a guy, held him down, pushed his face into the concrete, beat him with a baton, shot him with some kind of a bean bag, shot him 3 times when he was running and his back was to him, did this, did that, threw him down. 3 of them tackled him, right? In this case, the guy was threatening to vomit hepatitis C vomit on Parker, and he said, don't do it, or use some foul language, and or I'm going to beat you, or I'm going to do something to him. He never did touch him. So he loses his job. He loses his job over threatening a guy. Do you know how often cops threaten a guy? I've ridden with cops lots, right? Lots of times. Thousands of hours in my work. I've heard cops threaten people all the time. Get down on your knees, or this is going to happen. Put your hands behind your back, or this is going to happen. Stay in the car, or this is going to happen, right? Turn your car off. Do this, do that. Stand up. Put your hands on the car, or this is going to happen, right? In other words, they explain the alternatives. But in this case, and this is what I think the judge saw, he said, wait a minute. He used some foul language, but he felt he was in imminent danger of his health being affected, right? But he didn't strangle the guy. He didn't shoot the guy. He didn't break his nose. And he got fired over it. Isn't that amazing? I just think it's amazing. So all these people go and testify. They don't follow the human resources way to make a complaint. Like, all these complaints have never come up before. Did you know that? Duffy, Dewey, Koo. The paper conveniently left Clint Curry out of it. I'm bringing him back in. I heard he was over there talking trash. And hey, you want to do that in a bar, out at a barbecue? Whatever, but to go into the Board of Supervisors meeting and have it covered by the press and trash fellow employees, all you government workers, there's 1,000 government workers in Yuba County, 1,000 in Sutter County, there's like 90, over 60 to 90 in Marysville, probably 100 or so in Yuba City. You guys can do that. I don't think you can do that and get away with it. Maybe you can. We'll see. But it seems to me that in the next lawsuit for unlawful firing, all these people are going to get their chance in court to testify. Dewey, Koo, Clint Curry, the DA will be called. Duffy, let's see, Diego Heimlich, all these people, they'll get a chance to testify, along with the Board of Supervisors. Will all get subpoenaed. So it's interesting that Parker, they keep talking about he committed a crime, but no, he's never been arrested. Have you ever, is that odd to you? They keep saying he committed this, he did that. Well, why didn't they arrest him? Why don't they arrest him today? Why don't they go get him? People think this thing through. No arrest. He did something really egregious. No arrest. He verbally challenged a guy. So we'll probably, are we going to pay $1 million or $2 million to this guy? Probably. All right, we'll be back for another hour in just a minute. Benninger here. We're talking for another hour here about the election and about the fire and all kinds of stuff, controversy in our government. And I was just talking about Jason Parker's November 6th roasting in the Sutter County Supervisors meeting. He wasn't present, but a bunch of the DA's office just took a powder, left their jobs, came across the street, and just let the supervisor say, he no good, baby, he no good. We want him out of here. All the while, I noticed in the paper the other day that there's another deputy who's suing the county, who claims that a fellow officer, correctional officer, was sexually harassing her and grabbing her by the behind and her vagina. If some of you don't know what that is out there in Olivehurst and Linda, that will be the front part of your body right there, the opposite part of your behind. So I think that's a little more egregious than Mr. Parker, but we'll see whether she gets any cash out of the deal as well. I don't know whether she wants to get her job back or just wants to move on down the line and get away from people wanting to grab on her. So I got a text. Somebody said, I think I heard you say that Measure K passed. What I said was that Measure K was leading by a few hundred votes. That's what I said. And but there's lots of votes left. And so this person said, that texted me, that there were like 8,000 some votes over here in Yuba County to tally up. And so 8,400, she said, needed to be counted according to the county clerk. And don't jump to conclusions on this Measure K. So I was discussing like it was leading. If it won, then this could happen or that could happen and the other thing could happen. Up in Oroville, just a half hour away from Marysville, they had two tax measures on the ballot. And they Measure U, which was a measure to just raise general funds. They just said, we're out of money over here. So they said, we need some more money all over the place. It's not a special tax. We just want to put it in the general fund and spend it for anything. And that had failed once before, but this time it passed because they said, I'm going to read you what they say, which I think is going to happen in these other counties. But I think they were really out front about it because of CalPERS. But I'll tell you, the Measure U passed 55.9% approval, 1% increase on sales tax. Then they passed with 59.9% of voters, a Measure T, which is a cannabis tax. So all the votes weren't in, but they think they're going to pass. So these measures came. The article says at a precarious time for the city, as the finance director projected the city to be on track for insolvency in 3 to 4 years. That's the city of Oroville, right there next to the new spillway. Several city councilors or council people said, without significant revenue streams improving, the city would have to stop providing services and disincorporate and be absorbed by the county. In other words, the city wouldn't go anywhere, but it would no longer be the city. It would be just a part of the county, right? So they wouldn't need a separate city council or whatever. So it says the hard times largely have been blamed on the rising pension obligation costs from CalPERS. The city of Oroville is far from the only California city that is struggling, but at this point, cities have to figure out how to pay the growing bills on their own. Let's see. It's very interesting. What they say here. Most of the city council people supported the deal, and the cannabis tax, and it said it should generate 300 to 600,000 new annual income. Seemed like it should generate more than that, but that's what they said on the Measure U. That's the general sales tax. So they've passed it up there, and they're going to have one. So that bumps it up to 8.25 up there. So here, there's 8,000 more votes in the county of Yuba, 8,400 to count, starting with Tuesday of next week. And so could it turn around? I don't know. But if it doesn't get defeated, and it says, say it wins by 50% plus 0.5 or 0.1 vote, or 52% of the vote is 4K, then we will look at a legal way to stop it because of the illegal way that it was proposed, advertised, promoted funded. They just, it's interesting to me. Government constantly has to make more and more and more laws. Like down at the state legislature in Sacramento, it seemed like there's almost 1,000 a year. Isn't that amazing? 1,000 a year, 900,000. And locally, they're constantly having new ordinances, right? But it just seems to me that the county and the cities and the state decides when they want to obey them or not. They don't have to obey them the same as you and me do, right? Or you and I do. So that's just, it's just fascinating. I just think it's fascinating. And so, but the interesting thing is, if you violate the law, there's all kinds of entities to arrest you, like the Food and Drug Group, the Health Department can come after you, welfare can come after you, the district attorney can come after you, the police can come after you, the sheriff can come after you, the FBI can come after you, the Secret Service can come after you. All these layers and layers and layers and layers and more layers of enforcement. But if the government violates the law, who comes after them? You and me would have to do something, and what do? Let's see, we have to hire an attorney out of our own money, and then the government, like Robert Bendorf, the government that defends him, and the supervisors that'll be named, they get to get attorneys hired with our money. So we pay for the attorney to argue the case against the government, and we also get to hire the attorneys on both sides. Some comes out of our tax dollars, and the rest of it comes out of our money that we would buy pants and food for our kids, right? You get burned twice. That's why government doesn't get held accountable very much, because people just think, I can't afford it. They got a deep pocket over there, and they can spend millions on attorneys and postpone and continue and postpone and continue. It's like when the lady from Wheatland filed a Freedom of Information Act called a FOIA, F-O-I-A, early on in this campaign for Kay, to find out where's all this money coming from for these flyers and surveys and how much is being spent. Instead of getting the information in 10 days, it came like in 5 weeks. They just say, they're supposed to respond in 10 days. They say, screw you. Do something about it, why don't you? Right? Forget you. Right? Just like with Parker. Like, if they want to fire him, you can fire anybody you want. Did you know that? You can fire him, and you can make up any kind of story you want, but you got to follow the rules. It's kind of interesting. You can make up the human resource rules you want, right? You can't discriminate against different ethnicities or people that are missing body parts or, have issues. You can't discriminate. But you can make up the rules on how you interact as human beings, as employees, right? Like Ron Sullinger, two of the supervisors, neither of them, Ron Sullinger or Jim Whitaker recused himself. That means he passed on the vote on Parker because he said he has a cousin working in the department. But if either of them went under the scrutiny and the investigation that just happened to Parker, both of them would have got kicked out of politics. In fact, Sullinger's investigation criticized him back in 2013 or 14 for inappropriate behavior with females. And they said if he was a employee as opposed to a supervisor, politically elected, if he was an employee, he would fall under the employee handbook rules and he could have got fired. But because he was a politician, he didn't come under the authority of those handbook rules. So they had to just say, naughty, naughty. Straighten up. Wash your hands after you poop and go sit on the board. So he got to just do a pass. And who do you think paid for that investigation of him? That would be the Sutter County taxpayers, right? All these investigations. Oh, well, let's hire this investigation group. Oh, let's hire this. Now, they had two different separate investigations done on Parker. And the best they could do, this is interesting. I got a big kick out of this. The district attorney herself, what did she say? check this out. Listen to it. Now, these people, they don't raise peaches. These people down there at the district attorney's office, they do not raise peaches. They do not cut hair for a living. They don't counsel for a living. All they do is help arrest people, prosecute people. That's what they do, right? So District Attorney Hopper, after this goes to a Sacramento judge, did you know that at the administrative hearing when they went down there to hear Parker's case, that Amanda Hopper never decided she wasn't even going to attend? And they were just going to send down the reports from these investigating agencies? And that a judge in Sacramento put a halt to the trial and told Gene Jordan, the county counsel and human resources person, to go find Hopper and get her rear down to Sacramento. He wanted her on the stand to testify. So here's the thing. These are the sharpest people we got in Sutter County. These people, all three women, making $100,000 to $200,000 a year, they go to court. They understand court. Two of them are attorneys. And this is what Hopper says, according to Rosenbaum, the author of this article. She could have got it wrong, but probably not. Hopper asked the Board of Supervisors to read the record regarding witness testimony, saying if the judge had the correct information, he would have made a different ruling. Now listen, the Sutter County supervisors hired a special prosecutor, a special attorney, to go after Mr. Parker, and he went down there and represented him, but now Hopper's saying that they gave him incorrect information. And the other thing is that the Sutter County withheld the Solano County interviews with the perpetrator that this is all about, that supposedly Parker was so rough on. They withheld 30-some pages of testimony from the court and from the defense attorney. And I don't understand what she's saying here. She says, supervisors read the record regarding witness testimony, saying, in other words, alluding to the fact that the judge just didn't have the correct information. Well, who's responsible to give it to him? You hire a special attorney from an outside firm to argue the county's case. Are you saying he's guilty of malpractice? Or Hopper's guilty of I don't know who's guilty of that would be, the county has a burden of proof to prove that Parker is a lousy employee, but she's saying they didn't give him the correct information. Whose fault is that? I don't understand this. This is right in the Appeal Democrat. A3, look at it yourself. And now people are going to say, Lou Bennett. I'm just reading out of the paper. Lou Benninger's biased. I didn't say all these things. These are quotes from the supervisors meeting that the top people in the DA's office, workers, investigators, secretaries, all these people are testifying and they're just wanting to clean his clock. Wait a minute. Now, don't blame me. I'm just reading the paper. I'm just reading the paper to you. And then she says, he has, if I were a man, I would not have to put up with Parker's flagrant disregard for my authority or for my gender. You know, it's interesting that Jason Parker and his wife took care of her kids. They used to have her kids up at the house and took care of her kids. What kind of a deal is this? Like he's anti-women. She said, I think he's anti-women. He's married, loves his wife, has kids, took care of her kids. And oh, by the way, this Brandon Oakley character, they don't have him listed in this character. Have you seen on when people are saying what a wonderful guy Brandon Oakley is? I don't know much about him. I've met him a few times. But honestly, on YouTube, you can see him chasing down a guy that I guess he stole a cup of coffee out of like a Quick Stop or something. Wouldn't pay for it. Took off. And he chased him down, jumped out of his car, and slammed the guy's face into concrete. Now, honestly, I can understand doing that if a guy just assaulted somebody or, the guy was violent or the guy was packing a weapon. But just a transient, you had a cup of coffee, and you're going to, like, body slam his face into concrete? You know something, folks? there's a lot going on here in Sutter County. Yikes. Somebody's grabbing somebody by the behind and then the front of the behind. Wikiman is holding up a cue card, said she gave Jason outstanding evaluations. Yeah, I read that before. People are shocked by that. Do you know that? I have the copy of the outstanding evaluations. It's like on one day he's Jesus and the other day he's a demonic guy. I don't get it. Well, the supervisors have made their decision, so we'll just see how it all shakes out. And anyway, it'll be interesting at the end of this week what's going to happen with Measure K for Yuba County, and what that's going to say for the litigation regarding Yuba County. The taxpayer's going to lose either way. The taxpayer's already lost a couple $100,000. I don't know whether we'll even take any time to file a Freedom of Information Act and expect an honest response or not. It'll probably take into mid 2019 to get a response. So I don't know whether it's even worth doing, but maybe the attorneys will subpoena that information to go to court with it, to go after the supervisors. But even, like, who would pay such an amount back? Are you going to say the supervisors are they personally liable for making a decision? This thing, well, we're just going to, we did it out of the goodness of our heart. It's our political democracy duty to let everybody vote on this, whether or not it's up to the people, up to the people. But then they never asked the people whether they should spend $200,000 of the people's money to convince the people to give the people more money. Unbelievable. Well, how about this? This is screwy. If you ever think, this is like a horror film right here. You heard of the Thomas More Society? Thomas and then M-O-R-E, just like more food, M-O-R-E. David Daleiden, you remember David Daleiden? We've talked about him before. He, with another reporter, he's an investigative reporter, and he went and met with, he told these people with Planned Parenthood he was somebody else, and they got to talking to him about aborting babies, and all of a sudden, and they found out through interviewing them that they were aborting babies and they were selling their body parts, and it was a huge profit center for Planned Parenthood. And he not only recorded the interview, but he filmed it. And so you would think that the guy would be heralded as a hero, that he rooted out some people murdering babies, but instead they filed charges. First, Kamala Harris filed charges against him, and then Xavier Becerra, who took over for Kamala Harris as Attorney General, went after him. And so David Daleiden has 3 separate cases going against him. In the civil case filed against David by the National Abortion Federation, the judge recently denied Thomas More. Thomas More defends civil rights issues. To lift a gag order. So the judges came in and said, no one can look at those films showing these people saying they're going to sell baby parts, heads, lungs, whatever, kidneys. You can't look at those on YouTube. They got to be banned from YouTube or wherever they've been floating around. Gag order preventing David from releasing more of his incriminating videos, evidence against Planned Parenthood. Said, protect Planned Parenthood. They're God, baseball, and apple pie. Our Thomas More Society, it says attorneys are appealing this decision to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is a waste of time. It'll end up in the Supreme Court. They're nutcases over there. And then the civil case filed against Daleiden by Planned Parenthood, the discovery battle is heating up. It said there's 3 separate cases going on, and it's trouble, trouble, trouble. And what would you think? You think you're trying to save a life. It's kind of like if you ran out in the street and grabbed a kid before he was going to get hit by a dump truck, and they sue you and put you in jail over it. That's as crazy as this. David Daleiden, it says, is a pro-life journalist, spent 30 months leading an undercover investigation that captured video evidence of Planned Parenthood conspiring to illegally harvest and sell aborted baby body parts. The result? You'd think we would go after Planned Parenthood. No. 15 felony charges. I always ask the people in jail, how many felonies you got? What are you facing? Nobody's got 15 felony charges over there at Yuba County. 15 felony charges for saving babies. So here's the deal. They're trying to raise money for old David Daleiden. It says here, you couldn't be there when David entered the dark underbelly of the abortion industry, sitting across the table from abortionists haggling over the price of baby body parts with cold-blooded clarity. She said, I want a Lamborghini. And you couldn't be there as David saw with his own eyes the preborn children who have been killed with great precision to preserve their organs for maximum profit. And you couldn't be there when the videos were released and Planned Parenthood and their allies conspired to crush David Daleiden, like they're going to crush Jason Parker and feel good about it, the dirty dog, with trumped-up legal charges and an armed raid on his home in which they seized laptops. How about your home? I wonder if they went into Jim Whittaker or Ron Sullinger's house and seized laptops and hard drives and recording, how that would work out. But they did to David Daleiden because he's a dirty journalist who said, I think they're chopping kids up and selling them. And you couldn't be there with David when he appeared in both Texas and California for booking and processing, fingerprinting, and photograph or mugshots like a common criminal. But our defense says Thomas More Defense was there. So if you want to help, they're trying to raise $3 million for doing the right thing, right? And so you can go, and let me see if I can find before we go off here, maybe I'll have to do it when we come back. Thomas More Society, More, M-O-R-E, not double O, like more, like more soup. ThomasMoreSociety.org. Go over there and give some money. If you're pro-life or if you're pro-abortion, go over there and give some money too, because he got ripped off here. Even you pro-aborts weren't into selling body parts of kids, were you? Or maybe you were. In China, they eat them. So that's next for us. Oh, you don't believe me? Go check it out for yourself. Go to China. Ask them. We'll be right back.
Did you know that Article 4, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution lays out the framework for the state of Jefferson's plan to split California? A state can be formed from the land within another state if the state legislature and Congress approve it with a simple majority vote. 51% is all it takes. Your vote doesn't count in Northern California. California is broken and the time has come for 51. Please visit soj51.net and donate now to show your support.
Check out the Territorial Dispatch. Papers are weekly and can be obtained free at distribution or by mail through subscription. It's only locally owned and operated newspaper in the region. The paper is the rest of the story. And also check out the E-Territorial. It's an online version of the Territorial Dispatch which features local news and events for the Yuba Sutter, Colusa, and Nevada County areas. You'll also find daily and breaking news updates, current traffic, and weather information, along with a calendar of local events. Visit the E-Territorial at eterritorial.com.
All right. Well, let me clean up a couple things that we mentioned earlier, or just not clean them up, but remind you of them again. If you, this week, you may run into some folks in the community, whichever community you are in. If you're in Yuba Sutter counties and you run into folks from the fire and they look like they need some help, like I just got a text earlier where some people who had lost family members, in other words, they died, it sounded like to me. They said, how do we get a hold of Tip, Lou? And I sent them the phone number, right? So let me give you the phone number. It's a general office number for Tip, but you can reach us 24 hours a day. And if you think some people need some guidance, or they're just really hurting, or they need some food, or et cetera, they need some resources, you don't know where to direct them, just call us up, 530-673-9300, 530-673-9300. If you get discombobulated, write it down wrong, you can just Google TIP. It'll probably come up, or Trauma Intervention Program, Yuba Sutter. Probably come up on Google and give you a number or something. Or you could call law enforcement or any of the dispatch centers in Yuba Sutter area, and they could actually call us for you. They have a different number, but they won't probably give that out, but special number. So let's try to all work together to get the resources to these people that are scattered all over the place. And again, we have the After the Fire book that helps some get people organized and helps them think through the details, whatever they lost, how to replace their paperwork, how to replace their driver's license, their passports, all their stuff, So a lot of details. So let's work together. And the Yuba Sutter Fairgrounds is open, I know. And also I've seen a couple posts from some of my Indian friends that said that their Sikh temples are open for people to stay, and they're located all over the place. So you can just Google Sikh temple, and there's a couple in Yuba City. There's one in Live Oak. There's a number of them, and they're saying, hey, come and stay, we'll help you. So that's great, and I'm sure there's some churches as well. So that covers that. I also wanted to mention that trauma intervention, which is right in the middle of all this, and always has been, but we just don't do the big issues. Like usually when there's a big event like this, Cascade Fire, spillway evacuation, we're involved in those, but we're also involved in the daily disasters. I always say if you're ever going to have the worst day of your life, you're going to have somebody die on you or something, your house is going to burn down, hope it happens here because you're going to get better service in Yuba and Sutter counties because trauma intervention's here. So if you want to help an organization, that all the money goes to the end product. Very, very little administration. We don't have an office. We don't pay for PG&E. All the money goes to produce materials, to train our folks, produce materials to help the end clients, the survivors. Everything goes to the end product. I mentioned Bi-County Ambulance just gave us $2,500. Dave Greenitz Construction, who supports this show, sent us $1,000 the other day. Ted Holmes, plumbing doctor, sent us $500. People that know me know how we operate. So everybody donates their time, right? We get a lot of in-kind gifts. We just got a donation of a bunch of vests. Safety vests. Fire said, hey, Lou, we need you to guys have safety vests out on the highways. So we got some donated from Church of Glad Tidings, and then we had them printed. Got a great deal on printing. Somebody had donated the money for printing last year for getting vests, but we got a really good deal on them. So anyway, if you want to help us, you can send checks to TIP, P.O. Box 645, Marysville, 95901. We're trying to raise $40,000. You think, oh, Lou, that's a lot of money. Yeah, it is a lot. But, probably if the government ran our program, it'd be $1 million a year program. Oh, Lou, you're exaggerating. No, I'm not. If you take the government's price per hour that they assess as the value of a volunteer and you multiply it times the amount of hours that we actually put in, it's like just under $1 million. And that's not even counting all the stuff we buy and insurance we have to have and training we have to have. We're just talking about the hours that we actually put into the program, people going out on calls. So anyway, if you want to help us, you can send us a check, tip, P.O. Box 645, Marysville, California, 95901. If you are beyond checks, you've gone paperless, you can go to GoFundMe.com /tip 2019. You can go to GoFundMe.com /tip 2019 and just give $5, $10, $15. I don't care. If you can give us something, help us out. and or you could give off our website at yubasuttertip.org. We're going to run this campaign till the end of the year. So if it's tax deductible. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, have been for many, many moons. So we serve. We're almost up to 11,000 responses. We serve every agency in the Yuba Sutter area, including Pike County Ambulance and the hospital. So I want to mention for a few minutes. I want to talk about what Ann Coulter calls millstone babies or anchor babies. And so some of you have been hearing all that, and you think, oh, my God, Trump is ridiculous. We should just let those babies be, right? Well, people say, oh, yeah, it's against the Constitution. You've never even read the Constitution. You don't know zilch about the history of the 14th Amendment. You're all talking about it. So I'm going to give you enough information where you can be an expert at the next cocktail party you go to. So I'm just going to read some sections out of our article to educate you. The president can end. By the way, Ann Coulter was trained as an attorney, right? And she's a good writer. Whether you like her or not, I don't really care. But she lays out the facts. Ann Coulter says, president can end citizenship of anchor babies by executive order anytime he wants, for the simple reason that Congress has never conferred the right of citizenship for babies, anchor babies, that's foreigners giving birth on our soil. You know, sometimes we'll give birth, an ambassador will have a child in Mexico or some in France, but they do not become a Mexican or a French person, right? They still are American over there. For the simple reason no Supreme Court or Congress has ever conferred such a right on foreign babies. It's just something everybody thinks is okay. How could anyone, she says, even the not-so-bright person, imagine that granting citizenship to the children of illegal aliens is actually in the U.S. Constitution? It's just stupid. It's stupid. The first question would be, why would they even do that? Who would think that up? It's like being accused of robbing a homeless person. Why would you do that? The Supreme Court stated repeatedly that the main object of the citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment was to settle the question as to the citizenship of free Negroes. That's in the original argument. Making them citizens of the United States and of the state in which they were residing. Democrats, the entire media, and House Speaker Paul Ryan seem to have forgotten the Civil War. They believe that immediately after the war that ended slavery, Americans rose up as one and demanded that children of illegal aliens be granted citizenship. She said, you know what's really bothering me? If someone comes into the country illegally and has a kid, that kid should be an American citizen, by God. Have you ever thought that? You mean that's not already in the Constitution? Why don't you read the Constitution, some of you out there? Give me a scenario. Just one scenario, she says, where post-Civil War amendments would be intended to grant citizenship to the kids of Chinese ladies flying to birthing hospitals in Orange County, California, or pregnant Latinos sneaking across the border in the back of a flatbed truck. You can make it up. It doesn't have to be a true scenario, any scenario, as the court has explained again and again and again. No one can fail to be impressed with the one pervading purpose found in the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. Okay, I'm going to give you more information right here than your entire schooling did on the Constitution. Lying at the foundation of each of those amendments, 13, 14, 15, and without which none of them would have been even suggested, we mean the freedom of the slave race, the security and firm establishment of that freedom, and the protection of the newly made free man and citizen from the oppression of those who had formerly exercised unlimited dominion over them. This is the original language to justify these amendments. That's why the amendment refers to people who are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. They're residents there. They weren't passing through. They've been residing there for generations. For generations, it says African Americans were domiciled. That means out there in Oliver and Linda. That means you're like dwelling in this country. The only reason they weren't citizens was because of slavery, because they wouldn't allow them to be citizens, which the country had just fought a civil war to end. The 14th Amendment fixed all that. The amendment didn't even make Indians citizens. In other words, they made slave citizens, but the Indians, they were on the outs because it was about freed slaves. 16 years after the 14th Amendment was ratified, then the Supreme Court held that an American Indian or Native American, John Elk, E-L-K, was not a citizen despite having been born here. Hold that thought. John Elk, he was born here and he wasn't a citizen. Instead, Congress had to pass a separate law making Indians citizens, which it did more than half a century after the adoption of the 14th Amendment, Ann Coulter says. It's easy to miss the law. It's easy to miss. The law's titled, listen to this, the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924. Do you think you can hold that thought? Why would such a law be necessary if simply being born in the U.S. was enough to confer citizenship, right? In other words, why weren't Indians citizens all along? Because we had to make a law to make them that way. Even today, the citizens, the children of diplomats, hold this thought. Citizens of foreign diplomats and ministers in the United States are not granted citizenship on the basis of being born here. Now, why would just some lowly vagrant crossing the border or some Chinese person flowing into Orange County and living in a pregnancy industry house be given citizenship when the ambassador from Russia can't have a baby here and become an American? Think about that, or put that in your pipe and smoke it. President Trump, unlike his critics, honors black history by recognizing that the whole purpose of the Civil War amendments was to guarantee the rights of freed slaves. That's what it's all about. But the left has always been bored with black people, Ann says. If they start gassing on about civil rights, you can be sure it will be about transgenders, the abortion ladies, or illegal aliens. Liberals can never seem to remember the people whose ancestors were brought here as slaves, i.e., the only reason we even have civil rights laws. Have you ever thought about that? We wouldn't even need civil rights laws if we didn't have brought slaves here. But now we have them all for transsexuals and stuff. So it requires breathtaking audacity to use the Civil War amendments to bring in cheap foreign labor, which drives down the wages of African Americans, the very people the amendments were designed to protect. It's something, she says, also entirely to claim that an illegal alien subject to deportation can drop a baby and suddenly claim to be the parent of a U.S. citizen. Is that incredible or what? No Supreme Court has ever means not ever, not at all, held that a citizen born to illegal aliens are citizens. Held that children born to illegal aliens are citizens. No Supreme Court's ever said that. That's why when it gets to the Supreme Court, they're going to say that again, that they aren't citizens, and to stop it. No Congress has ever deliberated and decided to grant that right either. It's all made up in the news, in the media. All the news media, oh my God, I can't believe it. That's a right. That's the 14th Amendment. They don't know what they're talking about, right? It's a made-up right, grounded only in the smoke and mirrors around Justice Brennan's 1982 footnote. Anyway, that's the situation with the 14th. That's what they call anchor babies. Oh, I remember that the guy that the editor at the Appeal Democrat, Len LaBarth, he got so indignant that I used the term I said, that's just totally disrespectful. It's just like we should have open borders. I think if the Appeal Democrat wants open borders, they should remove the glass front door off their business so they can have an open business, free and open business. And we should all open all our doors and allow people to just come and share and spread the love, right? Just spread the love. Well, let's see. Where are we? We got a couple of minutes here. So, well, this is going to like blow your hair back if you got any left. Mine, it doesn't even hardly phase it anymore. According, let's see. I don't know whether you've been thinking about San Francisco. This is unbelievable. They just passed a new tax on business. It's not on profits. You know how taxes on business is based upon net profit. This is on revenue. This is right on the sales and just on businesses that generate over a certain bajillion dollars. But right now, the city of San Francisco, this is amazing. Before Tuesday's election, San Francisco was spending, and by the way, Yuba County, Sutter County is heading down this road. San Francisco was spending $50,000 on each homeless person. The average household income in Yuba County is like about $37,000. So they're spending $50,000 on all the benefits for homeless people and taking care of them, like picking up their poop, taking care of their medical needs, housing them, feeding them, right? He says that's well over the median individual income in San Francisco, and it actually rivals the median household income of about $60,000. In San Francisco, median household income, all the workers adding up all their money in San Francisco is an average of $60,000. So the average homeless person in San Francisco is using up more resources each year than the average American household earns in wages and has to pay tax on. And that money does not include the cost of police officers, nurses, doctors, prison staff who deal with the consequences of homelessness. But on Tuesday, the good people of San Francisco saw fit to almost double that homeless benefit. 60% of San Franciscans voted for a tax on businesses to support homeless people. And now the city will spend over $90,000 per homeless person. Now there's 7,500, they think, homeless people in the city. If those monies were spread evenly, each man, woman, and child would fork over $770 per year to support the city's homeless. But Silicon Valley is going to put up $300 million extra because this new tax levies an extra 0.5%. That's 0.5% on large businesses' receipts, not profit. So let me help you out with your math. Get out your pencil. So a business can turn no profit but bring in $100 million in revenue, and it would still owe the homeless people of San Francisco $500,000. Isn't that amazing? You could sell $500,000, you could bring in $500,000, but break even because maybe you're expanding or whatever and starting new products and still owe the city $500,000. Now each homeless person in San Francisco takes in 3 times as much as a median household income, a median individual income, and 150% of the median household income. So actually, the money was the plan, and they have no idea how they're going to spend this money. And so as the money has increased, homelessness has increased. So the new plan will throw more money at the same problem and just hope it all goes away. Because people like Scott Mitnick over there at Sutter County, the county administrator, I don't think Scott, ask him the next time you see him, say, Scott, have you ever taken anybody into your house and helped them get off heroin or methamphetamines or some kind of drug and then got them a job, got them all straightened out, got rid of all their bills, sorted out all their ID issues and all that stuff, got them a health checkup? Have you ever straightened out one person? Do you know how to do that? But you're going to spend millions of our dollars and just throw money at it. That's what they're doing in San Francisco. San Francisco does not even have the metrics to say what success is with the new tax. Where's the money going? Who's it helping? How has it improved the situation? How are we going to measure that? For $90,000 per person, you could hire someone. We need a pooper scooper. We could hire a pooper scooper for every homeless person just to follow them around with a bag. Remember, you know how you see these people with dogs, and they got a little bag over their hands so they can grab their poop off the cement, right? And so $90,000, you could hire someone to follow every homeless person around and clean up after them, their mess, right? This article says, hell, for that price, you could rent every homeless person in San Francisco a room at the Marriott every single night of the year and still have money left over, or just buy them a home outside of town. But it says the streets are still littered with waste, next to the tents that house the homeless person on every corner, and they're all just full of money. It should be obvious by now, the article says, that the problem isn't a lack of funding. The problem is handing out an absurd amount of free money to homeless population and having absolutely no plan for how that money will be put to work and to solve the problem, homeless problem. There's no accountability. When no one is accountable, it's just like the old saying, when everybody's responsible, nobody's responsible. People all need to be held accountable and responsible. Otherwise, you're it's like driving over the 10th Street Bridge, lighting $1,000 bills and throwing them over the edge. You're just wasting money. Okay, we're going to call it a day. So the sports guys are here today and going to be very entertaining and educate you on what's shaking this weekend around the NFL and the basketball and the whole 9 yards. So hang on, and then they've got a whole lineup of people. Wiki Man's going to be running the board for everybody today. He's working his finger to the bone. So if you see anybody out there this week, it may be somebody from the fires, or it could be an angel unaware, so be sure to treat them really nice. Catch you later.